Okay, I figured I'd go a little bit more in depth to the book trends and everything else that I was putting on the Twitter twatter with the whole bingo sheet thing. Um, the biggest thing to start with, with the, I guess I'll go in order. Everybody knows pretty much why I dislike the Mundane Manifesto because it wants everything to be basically what most modern Marvel comics and modern DC comics have turned into, where it's like, oh, you have to bring everything down to our shitty, moral realism level, and like you can't have stuff like Babylon 5 anymore because oh, that's just humans with rubber foreheads. It's like they don't. The Mundane Manifesto does not love the fantastical at all. It wants you to have more and more stuff like the Expanse, with where the genuine more fantastic elements eventually are subdued in the background, and then you have nothing but like, oh, it's us in space. Whoop de fucking do. The next one, mental issues instead of characterization. Because, and I've also seen this with quirks too. It's like, just because somebody's like autistic or whatever else, that is not actual characterization. To me, characterization is like the actions that go along with the character's personality. Sad sack protagonists, this is kind of self-explanatory, like, woe is me, I don't want it, Jon Snow from the damn, GOT show. It's like, then why the fuck are you even there, dude? And then, of course, gray morality, which most people, they don't go the Xena route, where you have a protagonist that has virtues that are very admirable, but they're basically trying to shed their darker past or darker impulsions or something. Yeah, a lot of people, when they put gray morality, it's like, oh, I'm just having a character that will wiffle waffle. Like, they don't have a very clear moral compass. They're just floating along. Love triangles is pretty self-explanatory. It's like, fucking choose somebody from the get-go. And it's usually like with the YA thing, where it's like, it's the boy with the dark past versus the best friend boy. Which I guess the inverse is true with the lit RPG harem stuff, when in some cases where, it's the best girlfriend from next door versus the whammons with the dark past and edge. But yeah, and yes, this next one, the villain was right, is pretty annoying. Because the thing is, you're supposed to have the villain do a compare and contrast with the hero, but if the hero is pretty much the villain with a slightly different color of paint, then it's just like, what's the fucking point? Deconstruction over reconstruction. Subversion, paranormal smutmance everywhere. Yeah, expendable because male. It's like, and this happens even in some YA, where it's like, I guess they kind of, with the Hunger Games crap, they use Gale as kind of like the compare and contrast with PETA to be like, oh yes, you eventually get together with the boy next door. But even that thing had a horrific victory, which I hate horrific victories. I see enough of that, in the daily life and grind. It's like, ugh, yeah, nope, not for me. Always right because female. Nita Blake has that in spades. And also she has expendable males. Broken families. Again, of course, like all this is like a counterpoint to what I'm doing in Uplift Protocol. If anything, like, I'm gonna have like fucking sprawling family stuff. It's like everything I do in Uplift Protocol is kind of like family integrated. Even if even it's not the Murphy clan in and of themselves. If you've noticed, outside of that, I've tried to tie in a family element with a lot of the characters, because again, it's just something I don't see much in most books anymore. There are still good things written, where there's a dead parent involved, or both parents are gone, or absent, or even dead. But far too often, this is just my personal observations, a lot of people go the Batman I'm orphaned route, where they'll use the parent's death as an extreme source of pain to have the character go out and become like a vigilante or something to that effect. So yeah, dead parents. and even looking at the some of the junk for Harry Potter, it's like, well, he has, even though a lot of his stuff does, like dead parents are out. When the kid was looking in the mirror, because I did watch a little bit of the movies at one point when they were on cable, and I'm like, because all he really wanted was a family. Bioshock did this pretty well in the ending with Jack's good ending. He ended up making his own family, which I found that, okay, in that case, that kind of subversion was pretty nice, but not a lot of games or books or anything else really subvert expectations well. Megamind did. Like, I'll always come back to Bioshock and Megamind as an example of a good form of subversion. Let's see. Yes, fatherhood and motherhood are devalued, like, by far. It's like, oh, we can't have a father that takes charge of things. We can't have a mother that cares about her children. That sort of thing. I'm like, oh my god. Then there's the IKEA porn in the room, where it's like, you know what? Yeah, don't be like Anita Blake. Just fade to black if it's basically going to be like, please insert penis into vagina. Like, oh, then basically, oh, look, girder A is bumping up against girder B. Oh, look, there's the orgasm. Yay. Yeah. Oh boy. Let's see. Yeah, gray doesn't mean complex. A lot of people nowadays like, oh, the protagonist has to be slippery slope gray mentality, which isn't anything close to Xena. Like, there's certain things where, yeah, I'll put Xena as a basis of that is how you do gray morality correctly. She'll have her very good days where you can see all her virtues coming to the forefront, and then you'll see where her past comes to kick her up between the ears, and like, oh, damn. Just because you make somebody edge doesn't mean it's complex. Most stuff nowadays, again, the boys. Just because you make them edge doesn't mean it's complex. Again, I know people do enjoy it, but yeah, it's just not for me. That's why this whole thing is just like trends I dislike. Now, can people put some of those things in and I'll still give it a chance? Like, the dead parents stuff? Like, yeah. Or maybe even the orphaned background. Which, even with Cyberpunk 2077, the Nomad thing kind of feels like that, where V is orphaned maybe by their own choice or whatever happened. And then you can make your own family if you want in Cyberpunk. That's pretty interesting. Like, I know people are giving Cyberpunk a lot of flack, but it does do quite a few things right. One, it has likable characters. I even like most of the fixers. It's like, man, you put Skippy back to factory reset. God damn it. But yeah, like it even Delamain with like half the AIs they put in the game, it's like, man, they made them likable. That's the reason why I'm still playing Cyberpunk 2077 and even gonna start playing Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, because I was bad with Lost Paradise. I watched a YouTube thing of seeing like, okay, what's the ending? Yes, okay. It's like, okay, I don't care if people spoil me on endings. It'll tell me if I really want to read something to its end, because I'm not looking for perfect victory endings or earn your happy ending, and endings where it's filled with a lot of like body counts and like, oh, you have to really put your character through the ringer. You can put them through the ringer other than personal tragedy and loss. There's other ways you can put characters through the ringer if you want to. It's again just what I'm gravitating away from versus what I want to find. Yeah, the soapboxing is really annoying. All the message fiction. I just want to be entertained for a couple hours. I see enough message fiction coming out of the news sources nowadays. It's like, dear God, just stop it. Stop it. Please, stop. The personal is political. Here's middle finger number 1. Here's middle finger number 2. Get your personalist political out of what's supposed to be entertainment fiction. It's boring, it's trite, it's heavy-handed, it's ham-fisted, and it usually does not serve the story whatsoever. And yes, I'm talking about even politics I agree with. It's like I'm reading to escape. I don't want to read about your politics in your book in terms of like, this is what I think about abortion. This is what I think about marriage. It's like, no, if you're going to have stuff in your book that has some politics in it, have it be politics of that story, not related to our politics. It's the reason why I won't read most, message fiction unless to see the samples and be like, yeah, not going to put money down on that. Realism over escapism mindset. This is also more of like what kind of genre you're writing in. If you're writing hard sci-fi, then yeah, you're going to use a lot more theoretical stuff that makes sense within a Newtonian kind of setup, like with physics and everything else. Yeah, and relativistic speeds in space because we don't have FTL and things like that. But you know what? When it comes to a fantastical setting, it doesn't have to be grounded in complete realism. It just has to be consistent with whatever setting you're building. Again, that's the reason why I don't gravitate towards stuff in superhero prose that goes the grittier, oh, Watchmen, everybody sucks route. I know, in general, for the most part, people have their on and off days, but I'd rather be uplifted when I'm reading something. I'd rather just, purely escape, just for a while. If I feel like I want to read something political, I'll pick up a political theory book. But yeah, this carries on to genre search algorithms, and everybody knows my fight with that. Like, dear God, it's like I just want to find something that's not infected with paranormal smutmats, where they're basically gangbang fucking a bunch of shifters. It's like everybody took all the worst aspects of Anita Blake and it just proliferated. And plus, part of me is like, why is that getting fed so much when everybody else is freaking starving? Right. Again, this is all just my opinion. You take it as you will. I just want to offer people more on the table. And I do like the fact that more and more lately, I've been getting people asking, hey, what kind of setup are you going to have for the ebooks and everything? Like, eventually, yes, it'll be there. But just like Mr. Nick Cole said, I want to be able to finish the whole series before I launch it in ebook format. That way people will have a complete set out there, and they won't be waiting, they can binge read it later on if they want to. Like the people following it along right now, it's like, I know your pain, because that's why I'm trying to do my best to get my writing chops even more up to date, and just keep on going, keep on pounding away, because you're not going to get any better at writing if you don't keep writing. And I find that while I've been writing, I love little mysteries. Like, I fucking dot little mysteries everywhere in Uplift Protocol. That I think I genuinely like mysteries more than I even like on-screen action. But I like to break it up. Like, there'll be a little bit of action, there'll be a little bit of personal stakes. You just kind of blender it all together. Because even when you're writing, you got to use yourself as your resources. Because if you're not engaged as the writer, then how is the reader engaged? Let's see. Pages of description. Yes, even though I do love things like The Sword of Truth and bits of Wheel of Time, yeah, it's just like overkill in the description department. I know some people can be very lyrical with their writing and it like flows really well. But sometimes I just want a read where it's like, don't worry guys, I'll do most of the work. I'll picture this in my head. I don't need tons of description. I just need to be like, okay, it's a bunch of rolling hills, verdant green trees, very sunny, and then you can just, I can just fill in the blanks with the rest of it. There's just times where I'm in the mood for that, which is, again, why I'm going through with Uplift Protocol, and I do reread certain portions because I'm still editing the main file for season 1, and I do try to update the blog every once in a while with some of the corrections Like, thank you there, Draco, for pointing out the little flub I had with the chapter where it repeated itself a little bit with those lines. I had thought I had deleted that from there, but I had deleted it in the main file and re-edited that part in the main file, but not on the blog. So there we go. And now I see why some indies have like beta reading groups, which again, like that's why I'm gonna at the end, I'm saving up funds here and there, putting it in a separate savings account so when the time comes I can pay for proper editing. And it's okay, future editor, whoever you may be, give me whatever feedback you have to your own personal taste, wheelhouse, and everything else, whatever you see, because even with people reading this thing and giving me a little bit of feedback here and there with some grammar mistakes, I'm like, oh man, I read that area like 5-6 times and I still didn't see it. So, it happens. But let's see, what was the last part? Oh yeah, the No More Heroes part. Everybody is some slippery slope version of air quote realistic person. It's like, you know what? Fuck realistic. I don't want a realistic person. I just want somebody that's likable. Again, I'll use Cyberpunk 2077 for this. I find Jackie Wells very likable. His stuff with his mom is fun. Even though he does have the aspect of like it looks like absentee dad, or the dad might have been killed off at some point. He's still very likable. He's like a good wingman in a world that's gone mad. And you'll find as you keep doing some of the side quests, you'll find other characters that are like that. And yes, there is some political messaging in there, but it's political messaging curtailed to Cyberpunk 2077 or Cyberpunk 2020's point of view, background, because I did take a look at it, because the game came with the Cyberpunk 2020 manual. So it is politics inherent in that world. And not only does it make fun of extreme right-wing stuff, it makes fun of extreme left-wing stuff too. It goes after everybody. So if you're going to have a bit of politics in your story, then go full hog on everybody if there's a basis for it in your setting. But what I mostly enjoy with Cyberpunk 2077 right now, because I can play a legitimate paladin, like as much as that setting allows. Like, I made my V very proactive in cleaning up the streets, and also there's a side gig where you have to find out like a file where there was a child murderer that recorded the murder, and you have to stop the distribution. And the guys were trying to say, oh, but we're just the middlemen. I had VKO them. Besides, I'm hired by the police force anyway. You know what? Goodbye. So you can play the character towards, what your own moral, like, setups are as a person. So yeah, like, that's why I enjoy Fist of the North Star. Ken is a very moral character, sees things in a very black and white kind of attitude within a very horrific setting. The same goes for Cyberpunk 2077. Pretty much, like, what's the thing is with V, like, once you get to a certain point, the other character will comment on your actions on certain missions in certain areas, and it's like, he's like, why did you even do all this kind of setup, where it's not like this person's going to give you anything in return. So it actually, by bouncing off this other character, you can kind of have a compare and contrast. So, that's just my ramble for today. How's everybody else doing? See you later.